Here's what happened. Literally the day of this recording, in the morning, I went outside for a walk around the neighborhood. I'm doing this loop where I'm doing the activity that I'm going to share with you to win the workday before breakfast. I was in it before breakfast, getting it in. And I remembered as I'm walking, I see this house in front of me and there's this lady out front watering her plants. And I could sense a vibe that she's about to ask me something. Like you just get the spidey tingling sensation in the back where you're like, your spidey senses are out there where you feel something's about to happen. And as I got closer, I shit you not, she turns to me and goes, "What are you doing in this neighborhood?" And it was aggressive. I turned to her, I go, "I'm getting my steps in." And she starts laughing and I'm confused at first, but then she goes, "Oh, I thought you worked for Google or something and you were trying to do something around the neighborhood." And I was laughing. At first I was like, I don't get it. But then I realized, so I told her this, I go, "Oh, I'm also working at getting some work in as I'm walking," because I had my work notebook with me. I looked like a typical, it was funny, I looked like a typical door-to-door salesman with the vibe. Work, I had my phone with me, my workbook. So I was laughing about that. So I want to get into a work walk with you for this activity that you can try out to be able to do this without fueling burnout. This is Make Burnout Extinct podcast. I'm Robert David Weeks. Today, going from that of typical door-to-door salesman vibe into the problem for today that I want to address with you, which is the feeling like you're going to throw in the towel. That could be something I've felt that many times in my career. And in these moments where you want to move towards what you want in life and you have that vision, and then all of a sudden shit hits the fan, life happens to us, and it's that feeling like you want to throw in the towel. So I'm here to tell you this play, the work walk, is a practical way that you can supercharge productivity and energy for yourself, especially if you're doing this consistently over time. And that doesn't mean every single day, but it means the majority of the days in the week. So there's this way of being able to move through that. And what I want to do is break it down for you this play. It's just going to be one play. Typically, I do more than one, as you know. But today, I want to focus in on this play, tell you what's happening if what could be happening for you if you're not doing this play, what you're experiencing, of how that's connected to burnout. I then want to get into the actual benefits of this play for your body and for your productivity with work. And then I want to share with you some practical ways that I've been using this in the beginning of the day to hopefully help you out with inspiration for ideas for what would pop up for your situation. So before all of that, let's get into some definitions that we have to define. There's two I want to highlight for you. They are both coming from the conversation between Chris Williamson and Alex Ramosi. I've shared about them both before. It's how Alex puts these two words I really like and resonate with. It's anxiety for the definition and then sadness for the definition, because those are two feelings that I have felt through multiple times in my career. I've had those moments. And it reminds me of that moment of feeling like you're going to throw in the towel. So I feel it's going to resonate really hard for you if you're in that phase right now. The first one that I want to talk about is anxiety. Anxiety, how he shares it that I resonate with, is many options. Anxiety is many options, but no priorities. And how it relates is this feeling of the feeling. It's why we feel scattered, and also you can't decide. It's like how he puts it, you can't decide. You can't make a decision. So I think about that in the day where I'm reacting to a bunch of different stuff. I get distracted really easily. I do. I'll go down the social media rabbit hole. I will go through messages and emails. I'll check it. I really have to work on that. So what can then happen is at the end of the day, I didn't take time to focus on the goals that I wanted to accomplish that are going to help me move forward and the things that are really going to move the needle forward. But instead, I'm focusing on this small little day-to-day busyness of work. And I feel like I got nothing done. So what then that can cause for a feeling is sadness, which goes back to how Alex shares it, is a perceived lack of options. So it's interesting because when I think about that in how I connect to it for the perceived lack of options, I relate more to how he dives into it, which is that feeling of hopelessness because you don't know what to do. And it feels like there's no options available to you, so you see nothing. It's that feeling of no way out that he shares and I resonate with. And I tie that into personal experiences of when I get through that day of busyness, of busy work, all of a sudden I realized I got nothing done. So does that then mean for my perceived lack of options, does that mean what I'm doing is it's not working? So, but aren't I supposed to do these things? And it's a weird mental shift that happens for me where I feel like there is no other options that are out there because I'm trying to do everything I can, but it doesn't seem to be working. And I'm blinded by thinking outside the box, thinking creatively in other ways for activities. I feel like I'm just hitting myself against this wall, and it's going into that definition of insanity of like you keep doing the same thing and expecting a different result. So that's where I then relate to the sadness. And I am definitely the guy. I think about this in high school. I would always, when I got hit with like a sad experience, I would be the Green Day Wake Me Up When September Ends vibe, listening to that song on repeat for the energy. So when you're getting into those moments too, it's remembering that we have this perceived lack of options. It's not our reality of lack of options. It's just we got to take a moment to breathe and reset. So the work walk can be really helpful for the workday in getting these big tasks done. So let me break it down into what's happening for you that you could definitely resonate with, that's causing you to move towards a path of burnout. So let's paint the picture here of, okay, you wake up in the day, you had a list of certain tasks that you wanted to do that you felt were going to move the needle. All of a sudden, then life hits you. You get the emails coming in from your coworkers, your boss, or your clients saying, hey, I really need you to help me out with this urgent situation that probably is not super important, but they need your help. And so you jump into that. All of a sudden, then you get another message back from someone else that needs your help. So you jump into that. Then all of a sudden you're like, I need to take a break. I'm going to go on social media and look at funny TikTok videos to help breathe a bit and give me some space. Then all of a sudden you go down this rabbit hole of looking at this cool new recipe. And then you're like, oh, let me now figure out how I can make this awesome recipe of a meal and look at all the cool ingredients, figure out how would I do this. And then all of a sudden you realize as you keep going through the day that the day ends, you didn't accomplish any of the actual work goals that you'd set out to accomplish, and you feel stuck, like you're going on this hamster wheel to nowhere. So I want to tell you, I've been there so many times in this journey, and what the work walk does for a benefit, because what happens if we're on that cycle, we are going to have the anxiety of uncertainty for the future. So you are feeling anxious about the future because you are uncertain that you're actually going to get you're going to make that vision that you have, the wants that you have, you're going to bring that into reality. There's uncertainty that you don't have the confidence that you're going to do that trust within yourself that you're going to get that done. So with anxiety, what is the body response? Cortisol levels get flooded into the body, and that then raises up our stress levels. We are then going into, if we're experiencing that each and every day of getting stuck on that hamster wheel that we've talked about, you're going to hit then chronic stress, which creates the body response of over time chronic inflammation, and that is going to be a fast track towards the chronic exhaustion. And then we've hit the first red flag, right? Not to mention the negativity we're feeling each day at the end of saying we're not getting anywhere. So why even try? Why even bother? It's that feeling of quicksand, like you're stuck in quicksand and you can't get out, that I resonate in my journey of having many times feeling like I'm stuck in quicksand. So we're hitting those first two red flags. The third is inevitable, of terrible performance at our work and in our career or our job. It's just a matter of time before that happens, where it feels like that slugfest of battling this storm, and you're just hunched over, and you're constantly getting hunched over to the point where you're just like, enough's enough, and you're done. And most likely what can happen on that when you get to that point of burnout is that you lose your job, you quit, you lose the business. That is a result of hitting the burnout. And I want to remind you, if you are still in that job, still at that career, or still on that career path with your, if it's a business or a job, I want to remind you that you have not hit burnout yet. And I go back to this quote, and it could be a relief for you to hear this: an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. It is much harder for the recovery and much longer of a recovery process from burnout rather than preventing it in the first place of hitting burnout. So with the work walk, to get into it, what we got to think about is, and I missed this. I want to highlight priority for you, okay? Because I was talking about with anxiety, there's many options, but no priorities. And this ties into work walk, I want to make sure, and that is priority, the definition. If you go to Latin meaning, that's really helpful. The Latin meaning for priority is first in rank, order, or dignity. There can only be one priority. That's where we get confused with priorities. There can only be one. So when we can take that thinking into our work days, it's now thinking, and this is how I've used the work walk, and we've heard about it before, of like, do the hardest thing first thing in the morning. Okay, I heard that, but how can we actually get that done? Because there can be a lot of tension and anxiety and wanting to push it off of how to address this. Well, a work walk can create clarity for you. Okay, I am going to get the one priority that I know is going to move the needle forward for my career and my life towards what I want. I'm going to get that done in this work walk and get it done before breakfast. So how that's set up for me, I'll share with you like how I've done it. Is I wake up in the morning and then I do a 30 minutes no tech. That is helpful because I get distracted. I can then feel like I'm reacting to the day, and then that increases my anxiety because I'm getting so overwhelmed with all the information that's out there, especially on my phone. Like, I'll go down the social media rabbit holes. So I at least have 30 minutes of that, of just of me time, connecting with me or connecting with family, partner, having that time. And then what I've done is I've gone out for the walk. And for me, I feel going back to the ancestor days, I feel the hunter-gatherer. I'm going out for the hunt is how I get the imagery of that. I'm like, all right, fuck yeah, let me go out for the hunt, and I'm going to get this work task done, this priority for the day that's going to help me to supercharge my productivity, create more momentum, and I am going to feel energized after this because it was an intense thing to do. And you can go back to the hardest thing, do the hardest thing first. There's that saying, eat the frog. I forget who said that. He's not the person that's not come to mind, but I remember that. So you can take that into this: is what is the challenge right now that you're facing that's keeping you stuck, and take this time in the work walk to get it done. Now, usually for me, what I've noticed that is helpful is to take the priority to be focused on communication with another person. That has been helpful because it's hard to bring your laptop on here. I know, you may have the walking desk version going for it, but what happens is when we get outside, what this does for benefits is it allows us to have a new environment. We're getting the fresh air and not spending, which is the average American spends 90% of their time indoors. When I saw that stat, I made sure one of my daily habits was outside time to increase that, because I realized I was part of that stat. So one, you're getting fresh air into it, your body's moving, you with a walk specifically, that's allowing for serotonin to be released, and you're connecting with nature. It allows the creativity to flow. You're able to relax, and the mood, your mood feels a lot better. So with that, it creates less resistance and less friction to focus on a task and get it done. And for me, I've done for all of my work walks, communication. So it's either sending messages to certain people that I need to send messages to, and have those conversations that need to be had in order to move forward with, if it's a certain project or certain goal that I've set out. That's how I have been able to use it. And so you can think about that for your own situation. What is a way that you can, what is a task that is going to be involved with communicating to another person that you can make the priority that has currently become a momentum blocker for you? And I go back to that quote of Lisa Nichols: communication is the distance between you and everything you want. That is so important, is to realize who can help you. Who do you have to contact to get out of this stuckness and create momentum? Now, what also happens over time is you're meeting a few cool goals, a few cool benchmarks for doing this work walk. One, you're hitting that, and I've talked about it before, for the conversation of the 50% of Americans are feeling burnout by skipping this activity. You are doing an aerobic exercise of walking, and you're hitting that 20 minutes. If you do, I recommend 30 to an hour of the outside time to get that work task done. You are then hitting your 20 minutes a day for the health guidelines. And what you're doing is you're setting yourself up to increase your energy production with increasing your mitochondria. So what happens is, in the body, this I got from Dr. Casey Means, the mitochondria is the work engine of the body that produces the energy currency, the ATP. Now, what can happen is, when we're in sedentary lifestyle or sitting a bunch, hanging out on the couch with our work, is that our body starts to produce less of these mitochondria because it realizes, it has a signal, oh, I don't need as much energy. Well, if you're moving, you're signaling to the body that you need energy you need energy for the walking. And that signals to the body of, okay, wow, we're going to need to produce some more of these work engines to make sure that we can meet the demand. And over time, what that then happens is your body will produce more of these mitochondria if you stay consistent with the walking. And it's like, from studies, it's shown around a month is when you'll have an increase of these mitochondria. But then that helps you to take it to a next level for your life and for your progress towards what you want and the vision that you set out. And that, I think, is so fucking cool, that the body can do something like that, where it can all of a sudden over time build up more capacity and more energy that we can then channel into other areas of life. And when we get that work task done, what happens, I know it's happened for me, is you have all that thoughts and beating yourself up of, shit, dude, you're not getting this done, or come on, you're a piece of shit, or lazy, or whatever is the dialogue that's going on for that inner thought. What happens is that stops because we got the work task done, and then we actually were able to then celebrate the effort of getting it done, of actually accomplishing this thing. We're like, fuck yeah, we did that. And that then creates momentum in the specific day to be able to handle better the shit that's going to come our way. If you've got kids that you're having to navigate with, like making their meals for their school lunches, or if it's having to deal with some really tough clients or coworkers, the boss, you're able to handle that a lot better and be present a little bit better than otherwise if you chose not to do the work walk. That is what I have noticed personally in my experience. And it's something then that you can try out for these next few days, and try out as a play to determine how this can impact your day-to-day life and impact your progress towards what you want and the vision that you set out, which is a big focus for this podcast. And how we can avoid burnout is when we're moving towards what we want and making that progress, and we're noticing we're getting the positive confirmation of that, of getting these tasks done. It's adding on to that filling up the bucket of accomplishments of us moving towards this vision and feeling the progress happening. That becomes a fun cycle of momentum that's just going to grow faster and faster and faster. And before you know it, you're going to look back and realize the life you thought was the dream has now become the reality. But it takes these small actions over time to build upon that. And this is a great starting play to try out the work walk to be able to move you towards that path rather than the path of burnout. Because again, burnout, it's a spectrum. We're either moving towards burnout or away from burnout. And so it's either on one end, it's burnout is extinct. On the other end, burnout has hit, and you're somewhere in between there. And I will tell you that by getting important tasks done that move the needle, it makes a big difference towards moving towards the path of making burnout extinct. So I'll leave you with this to close it out. One is the question of, okay, these next few days, when are you going to try out this play? And it's a reminder with John Butcher. I've mentioned him before. He's someone personally that I have known and have learned from a lot for business and life. And he has a cool way of looking at decision. Decision, for the Latin meaning of decision, is to cut off. It's to cut off all their options, and you've decided on something. So take that into this decision, into this work week. Is when are you going to decide in the week to do a work walk? And commit to that then, and try it out. And for expectations, you may do this, and what can happen, and I felt it, is once you've done you may not get the tasks done, and you may be like, shit, I didn't get it done. Okay, well, you got tomorrow. Maybe you made a lot more progress than you would have ever made if you had just put it off and not thought about it and been like, I'll get to it. So I want to tell you, just by doing it is going to be making progress. Now, if you don't get it all done, you can do it for the next work walk. You can break these into smaller chunks, break them into small actions within the bigger action, and do that so that you're continuing to feel like you're moving forward and checking this off your list. What can then happen at the end after the work walk is you could have a low energy, not low energy that's not the word I want to use. It's like a dip in you may feel very tired for a few minutes. That what's happening there is you are releasing the mental overload that you have felt by not getting this work task done. All that inner thought, inner chatter of beating yourself up, that gets released. And so that can create this feeling of tiredness for the rest of the body that you have to potentially prepare for. And so give yourself a few minutes post work walk to just hang out, be still. Maybe you're getting right into breakfast and you're preparing that. Give yourself extra few minutes to it'll subside. It'll definitely even out, but you could have that initial drop because you've just released all of that negative self-talk that's happening, which becomes really cool. Then you realize just how much of a difference you're feeling going into the day, which should be another reminder of how important this is to implement for yourself. So it's for you to decide when that's going to be this week, and pumped for you to experience something like this and what it can do for you. Because I know for me, it's become a game changer. If you like this episode, please don't forget to rate this podcast to help get this message out of Make Burnout Extinct. And you can share what resonates with you from this episode by connecting with me on my Instagram or LinkedIn. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this episode. I don't take that for granted. Excited to reconnect again soon.